Hey everyone, welcome back. We are at the range right now and we are about to start our optimal charge weight test. We've got the rifle here and I always get a lot of questions on this contraption, but on the front of the rifle we are running a spigot mount for a MagnetoSpeed V3. This has been great for me personally because I'd like to track my velocities, but the actual MagnetoSpeed is designed to hang off like a barrel or a suppressor, and the issue with that is it affects your harmonics of your barrel. So over time, if you're shooting, you could have a great group with the MagnetoSpeed and go home, load that cartridge up or load that up, and then come back out with the MagnetoSpeed off and it will shoot completely different. So this just keeps us consistent without having to mount anything to our barrel. So if you shoot a MagnetoSpeed, honestly, I highly recommend it. Maybe we could do a video on it in more detail. But we've got the chronograph set up. Get our headphones on here, turn them on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a microphone. Sometimes when you fire like loud rifles or even something suppressed, the audio will change and it will take a while to get, I guess, back to normal. So if I make any commentary or anything like that, I want y'all to be able to hear me. So we're going to see how it works. This is kind of the pilot test. I'm hoping that it works, but we will see. So our first load, I'm doing kind of a mock target cam. I'm going to try and do a picture-in-picture here, but we're going to start off by shooting 4 groups of 5. In this first group is going to be 22.2 grains of tac. So we will get situated here and I will kind of call out our velocities and see how we're looking. All right, let's see what we got here. Check our parallax, and we look pretty good. First shots. 22.2. All right, so that just looks to the right of the black. We essentially almost center punched that first shot. Let's see how the rest of the group shoots. Just a hole in a hole. We are looking standard deviation wise, our average is about 2,500, 2,550 right now. We have a huge SD. Ooh, we had a flyer low left. Another flyer low left. And it looks like we had a round go high right there. And speaking of, let's take a look at our data here. So I had a pretty high SD on this, an SD of 44, which is enormous. Our maximum velocity was 2594, our minimum was 2483. That's slow. We need to be going faster than that. And our SD is 44.3. So I'm just going to take our average velocity of 2541. And then our SD of 44. We'll leave the decimal place off. I hope this mic isn't catching up all this bag noise. It's probably annoying if y'all are hearing that. Got a little breeze. Shouldn't affect us at 100 yards. All right, that was 9 o'clock at the orange. 12 o'clock of the orange just outside, maybe 11:30. Ooh, 9 o'clock right inside the orange. I pulled that one a little bit to the left, like ever so slightly to the left, and it looks like it is right next to our 12 o'clock shot on the orange. And that looks like it's in the orange just to the right of center. So, I mean, that's an okay group. I mean, it's probably about an inch, maybe just over an inch, which I'm hoping to tighten this up just a tad. Let's see our data. Our average velocity is 2552. I need to get a finer pen to do this. I wrote all of this in pen, and this Sharpie's a little thick. And then we also have a 46 SD, so we're getting some crazy high SDs right now. I probably should have checked this prior to, but we're still kind of in the lower charge weight area. Looks like we're okay in terms of primer stuff, primers, no ejector swipes, nothing like that. All right. So we will reset our chronograph. Let's move on to 22.6. And hopefully we can pick this speed up a little bit too. All right, that was almost a center punch right there. Let's see if we can do it again. One o'clock outside the orange. Ooh, that looked 9 o'clock outside the orange. Six o'clock outside the orange. And that looked like almost a center punch as well. And that was 5 shots. So good news is, off the bat, we've cut our SD in half to 22. All right. So 22.8. That was high, 11 o'clock. Ooh, same spot. Same spot. Ooh, that one dropped a little low. If I had to guess, it looks like that 5th round went through that same hole where we had that little flyer. So we got some good news, actually. I just actually checked the group. Our average velocity here is 2553, but our SD is 12.7. So we're going to write it as 13. Our velocity is 2553. We're going to let the gun cool off real quick. We just shot slow fire, about 20 rounds, exactly 20 rounds. So I'm going to go put up a new target. I'm going to take that target and put it with our gear so we can look at it back at the house. All right, so we just swapped our target. We're ready to shoot our 5th group. This is going to be 23 grains flat of tack. And also, I ended up moving my mic. I reviewed some audio prior to starting this. My mic was clipped close to the collar of my shirt, but I ended up moving it down on the sleeve of my shirt, so hopefully that balances out some audio. It may have been me wearing these headphones, even though they are electronic. I may be talking kind of loud, so again, hopefully this is a little bit easier to listen to, and we'll get it down here after we trial and error it a few more times, maybe. Funny thing with this load as well is I shoot a 223 precision rifle, and this is actually my exact same plinking load for it. Is 23 grains of tac over a small rifle match primer, and then I also shoot 77 grain SMKs out of that, just seated to AICS magazine length, and not magazine length for an AR-15. So hopefully this does well. And I didn't say this in the last video, but I shoot a good bit of AR-15s, and this rifle is so nice to shoot so far. It has no recoil. The Isley SSAE is a great trigger. Glass is pretty decent, but it seems to be gassed well too. I mean, I'll have to see without the brass catcher, but it seems like we're getting probably around 3 o'clock, 3:30 ejection, which is good too. All right, so 23 grains. Let's do this real quick. Check to see. No stamping. We still have a good edge around that primer. No cratering. Looks okay. And that was 25.86 in terms of velocity. I was hoping for around maybe mid 26s, 2600, 2700 maybe, but it's probably going to look like if we shoot this, we'll probably end up maybe in the mid 2600 range. Who knows? We'll have to see. So that was a 9 o'clock punch on the orange. Let me reestablish a good firing position since I took my cheek off the stock to look at that brass like a dummy. That was 12 o'clock of the orange. Six o'clock of the orange. 11 o'clock of the orange. We're just right outside of it. And then that was somewhere in the 10 to 12 o'clock area of the orange. Velocity was 2605 average, 22.3 SD. 22. We'll just say it was 22. We'll leave the, we'll just do 5 or more, raise the score, 4 or less, let it rest kind of deal. Right. 23.2. 3 o'clock. That's pretty good. That's a 2650. We'll see what these other ones lay at in terms of a velocity. Help if we take the safety off. Center punch. Center punch. That's a 33 SD. Let's look at this. Starting to get a little swiping. Nothing too crazy, just a little bit. Primer looks good, but there's debates on if that's the best way to look for pressure signs. That looked just at 9 o'clock of the orange. Pretty decent group. and that may have been 3 o'clock. But we'll review. 2669 velocity. Our SD is 32.6. We'll say it's 33. Like we said, 5 or more raise the score. Let's check this brass. I started noticing a little bit of swiping, just a tad. It's not bad. Just a little bit of ejector stamping, but I think we can go just a little bit more. Let's shoot this next group and see how this next one turns out. It's a little windy. Apologies. We are clear. 23.4 is our next group. And we're moving to green, so it's a little darker. Probably close the bolt, huh? I was leaving it open while I was resetting the chronograph to not get that round in the chamber and heat it up or cook it up in terms of getting the casing or the cartridge really hot before firing it. But we forgot to chamber it. All right. All right. Let's see how that's looking. Getting a little bit of swipe in there. Let's try one more. The SD was 14. That's not bad. We're looking at about 2687. Let's see how this group that's how this group lays. It doesn't look too bad as we sit right now. It's high. Look at 29. We should shoot our last one. Beep beep. Alright, so that group opened up just a little bit for us. We're also at a 26 SD. Our average was 2,700 feet per second with a 26 SD. Just looking at these numbers, what intrigues me the most is that shot number 4 at 22.8 with a 13 SD. It's only going 2550 average velocity, but we will take a look at that. I don't think I'm going to shoot 23.6. This is getting a little hot. I could feel it as well with the rifle starting to recoil a little bit harder as well. So with this, we are going to call it. We'll get home and we'll take a look at these groups. All right, so we're back at the bench and we're taking a quick look at these groups. While it's safe to say that none of these groups were absolutely stellar. None of these groups were also horrible, like no 2.5, 3 inch groups. They all kind of hovered around that 1 inch mark. So taking a quick look at 22.2, we had a slow velocity of 2541 and a very high SD of 44. So this would be undesirable for long range shooting. If we were to take a measurement without the flyer, it looks like we are about at 1 inch. And then with the flyer, it's gonna put us about 1.6. With 22.4, our velocity jumped up about 10, 11 FPS to 2552, but we had an SD of 46 and no flyer. So if we look at this group, this is definitely gonna be sub-minute. It looks like we are about 0.8 on that group. 22.6, again, probably around, I would say just over 1 inch maybe. Let's check. 1.3 inches on that from the furthest most shots. Our velocity on that was 2584, but we cut our SD in half to 22, which is a little bit more in line. Again, we're shooting tac powder. It's just a ball powder, so usually I don't get super great SDs with this. But moving over to 22.8, this is what I would probably say is one of our better loads. We essentially had two groups here. So we had 2 touching at 9 o'clock and then a little 3-round group at about 11 o'clock. And this ended up turning out to be, if we did center to center, about 0.9. But the big thing to look at is the standard deviation, which was 13. So moving on from that, we ended up going to 23 grains. Again, we went up in increments of 0.2. And this opened up a good bit. We still maintained around a 20 SD, a 22 to be exact, but our velocity started getting into the 2600 ballpark. So at 2605, we just took this and did a quick center to center measurement. It looks like we're gonna be about 1.3 inches. Moving on to 23.2, our velocity jumped up pretty measurably to 2669, nice, with an SD of 33. Taking a quick measurement of these groups, we were able to get under 1 inch. It just looks at about 0.9. So that group's not horrible. It really isn't. I mean, it's about 1 inch, 30 SD. That's a little high. With this powder and stuff, I'd like to see if I couldn't stick around. Honestly, like the mid-teens are like maybe around 20 at most, but we'll see. Again, this isn't going to be our super long range match precision powder. This is just going to be a good load that we could take out the distance if we need to, but not hole in a hole in a hole in a hole like some of our other precision rifles. And realistically, I shoot a lot of bolt action rifles. That's really what I shoot the most. So I don't want to expect too much out of this, but I also want to make sure that we could probably stay, or we need to stay, around 1 inch, just sub-minute, and then with an SD of around that 20 mark, hopefully around the mid-teen mark, and decent velocity. I'm trying to shoot for around the 2700 mark, so we will see if we can achieve that. 23.4, our velocity jumped up a little bit more to 2700 with an SD of 26, and our group opened up just a tad here. It looks like this went to about 1.2, 1.3, and then I started seeing some pressure signs. I was getting some ejector swiping pretty hard on 23.4. I could have shot 23.6, but after seeing the brass and after seeing all that swiping, I decided not to. I've shot a little bit more factory ammo since doing this test, and I've noticed that it swipes on essentially everything. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna push it up a little bit higher or not, but what I did was I ended up swapping primers, and I went out and I shot this off camera and wanted to just see what it would do with a little primer change. So that PPU up in the top left is just factory ammo, 69 grain, hollow point match ammunition, just their gold box stuff. And it netted out a 2707 velocity with a 17.1 SD, but the group wasn't great. It was only a 3-shot group, but we did have a flyer, and it was about 1.3 inches, so it wasn't fantastic. So with the CCI 450s, I backed the charge off just a little bit. It looked like I didn't need to go all the way down to where we started, but close to where we started, just to be on the safe side, because I was seeing some swiping at the low 23 range. So looking at 22.4, it got us up to 2533 with a 37 SD, and that group was about 1.1. So it's not horrible, but the SD is a little high and the velocity is low. 22.6 got us up to 2565 with a 40 SD or 39 SD. That's pretty high, and the group was not great at all. I don't even know if I want to measure that. I mean, that's probably right at 1.8 inches. So that's probably the worst group that we shot with this powder and primer combination. That definitely is the worst group that we shot. But when we moved over to, well, let's go back to that real quick, 22.6. So we can actually take that flyer away. I don't know what happened, and this group significantly shrinks down. If we took that 5th round flyer away, we're around an inch. So it's still not a great group, but it's important, I guess, to factor in that flyer. Moving to 22.8, our velocity is getting close to that 2600 mark, but we still have a high SD of 39. Our group was able to tighten up a little bit. It looks like we were right about just under an inch with this group. 23 seemed pretty solid. Our last shot was the flyer that's like almost cutting the 2 in half, essentially. But without the flyer, this group was 0.8 inches. With the flyer, it opened up to 1.5 inches. So one thing to note is this was going 2654, so this is a pretty high jump. This was a about a 60 FPS jump with 0.2 grains of powder. So this is a pretty high jump for velocity for us. And I wanted to take a note that all 4 of those rounds that are close to the pink are netted us a 12 SD. However, we did get that flyer at 12 o'clock that is at the 2, or cutting the 2 in half. And essentially what it is it bumped our SD to 24, and that round was going like 2690. So it was going really quick compared to the others. I really don't know what happened, but yeah, I think it's important to note that that was there. Next, we have 23.2. This round is going 2702, which is close to our target, what we wanted to look at. And we had a SD of 16 on this. So we had 2 rounds drop low for some reason, and I kind of really want to explore, maybe change some seating depth or anything a little bit more on this, around this 23.2 charge weight. Maybe I'll try 23.1, 23.3. Maybe I'll adjust the seating depths up and down a little bit. Actually, I'll go down because we can't really go further out considering we're at magazine length. But if you look at these right here, this is 2 shots in the middle and then 1 at about 7 or 8 o'clock. I mean, those 3 shots laid down at 0.3. So that's pretty solid. But then something happened to where we had our group open up just a tad with 1 flyer, and that opened up to about 0.7, which is still acceptable. But then this last flyer opened our group up to 1.2 inches. But we had a 16 SD, so what I'm seeing is our velocity target, we're getting close to it. Our SD target, again, we're pretty close to it. We're essentially there with our SD target. but accuracy is good for 3 rounds, but then the last 2 dropped really low. So again, I just want to explore a tad into what's going on with these loads. Again, we aren't looking for bolt action, probably hole in a hole accuracy, but we'd like to get as accurate as possible. But yeah, anyways, I just wanted to share these with you. Let me know what you think. Comment down below, subscribe, whatever you want to do. We're going to be diving into this a little bit more. I don't need to move that out of the way. But anyways, yeah, like we said, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog. Tell your dog I also said hi. We'll see you in the next one.